All right, let's change gears. We've been talking about COVID in prison on this show, especially after Dan got these amazing sketches in the mail of inmates wearing masks. They were sent to him from a woman at Coffee Creek, which is Oregon's only women's prison. And she also sent that letter talking about how people in Oregon's prisons need to be protected regardless of the crimes they committed to get there in the first place. Now, Oregon's Vaccine Advisory Committee met last week to make recommendations on who should get the shots next, and they decided that inmates should be prioritized along with people who have underlying health conditions, frontline essential workers, and people living in low-income housing. Now, remember, those are just recommendations. The governor has to sign off on them. We'll let you know if and when she does. On that note, here's something that we think is worth your time. We love highlighting local journalism here. The Oregonian published a story over the weekend about conditions inside state prisons as the virus spreads among inmates. They spoke with 8 people in custody, and some say they were either kept in the dark about testing positive for COVID, or they felt like they were being punished for it. They all say they've seen COVID positive inmates put into cells with other inmates who tested negative. And the Department of Corrections says prisons are making changes as cases and deaths increase. But inmates say it's not enough. It is worth noting 1 in 4 inmates across Oregon has tested positive for COVID since the pandemic began. 42 have died, and nearly half of those deaths happened last month. Now, you've been sending us some feedback on our prison coverage, and we got this email actually from Mike. He wrote, "You have done it yet again. You talk of the inmates in Oregon." Caps are back, and being vaccinated. But what about those in Washington? Why do you not talk of them? After all, there are parts of the Washington prison system in your viewing area. Is it because you have not, Caps, looked into the numbers? Mike, I get it. I get the frustration. So let's take a look at what's going on in Washington state prisons, shall we? Nearly 6,000 inmates have gotten sick, almost twice the number in Oregon, but only 10 have died compared to, again, 42 in Oregon. So Washington started, it's worth noting, vaccinating some inmates at the end of December, and basically older ones with chronic conditions who live in long-term care settings. In April, the state is planning to expand vaccinations to everyone in custody. Again, that's Washington. Now, for comparison's sake, Mike, and hang on to your hat, let's look at California, too. Let's keep this going. Remember, they have a much larger population. More than 47,000 inmates have gotten COVID in California. 192 have died. That state started vaccinating some inmates last week in medical facilities, kind of like in Washington. But some people are upset because under California's original plan, all inmates were supposed to have gotten the vaccine by now, and the state changed how it prioritizes people, basically. So now they're going strictly by age, and that means older inmates are getting the shots instead of everyone else.